Hello, my name is Daryl Shirley, and this is my Mind Map 2. The general theme for this week's Mind Map would be based upon understanding truth and how our understanding of truth relates to our thoughts on technology and influence our relationship with technology. The major noteworthy connection between the philosophers for this week's readings are that they are all early 20th century German philosophers. During this time, Germany would go through major shifts in technological advancement and philosophical thinking with the two world wars and the rise and fall of the Nazi Party. For Oswald Spengler specifically, he would be influenced greatly by World War One, and for Martin Heidegger and Hans Blumenberg specifically, they would be influenced directly by the Nazi Party in World War Two. So another key thing that I found relating Martin Heidegger and Hans Blumenberg was that one, they were both learning from Edmund Husserl, who is a German Jew, and this would also have like a distinction between the two. For Hans Blumenberg was a Catholic Jew who spent time in a Nazi internment camp, and Martin Heidegger was a supporter of the Nazi Party who was also in the Nazi Party. But a lot of his readings, or not readings, but writings, would be end up getting banned by the Nazi Party. And so you have like the direct correlation between the two. But it was interesting to find out that during the readings and during the research that I did for this week's readings, that unfortunately there was no instances that I could pull from where Hans Blumenberg and Martin Heidegger actually met. So I could see like where some of the things they see in person, like did they have things that they agreed upon, like that conversation, or things that disagreed upon. That conversation would have been very interesting to see, but unfortunately it didn't happen. So moving on from that, Hans Blumenberg specifically, his three writings that we read for this week were the relationship between nature and philosophy, metaphorics of the mighty truth, and the phenomenological aspects on life, world, and technization. So the summary I have for the relationship between nature and philosophy is that it argues that technology is a continuation of nature's evolution and wants people to reconsider ethical and metaphysical assumptions about human agency. Why I think this was interesting is that he's talking about reconsidering ethical and metaphysical assumptions about human agency during a time where Nazi Germany is basically at the forefront of technological advancement, and they're committing a lot of maybe known to him, or well, we will see that because he was a Nazi internment camp, that these atrocities were known to him, and how this technological advancement could have been shaping their ethical assumptions on human agency. Like, what is the agency behind them acting the way they did, and how they treated people with their knowledge and with their advanced technology. And so I thought that that kind of historical context would be very interesting in maybe how his writings would be shaped. And then also I wrote that it was written in the wake of Alan Turing's Turing test and World War One and World War Two. So he would also have like knowledge of how Germany was like treated after World War One and how it kind of led up to World War One. And his second reading was the metaphorics of the mighty truth, where he seeks to understand slash explain what truth is and the use of metaphors to find its meaning throughout time. He would, like I mentioned before, he was a Catholic Jew, and one of the main metaphors in Christianity is between, like, is for Jesus, where it says that Jesus is the way, the truth, and the light, and it compares like truth and light as being kind of synonymous. And the significance of light throughout time is that it's like shines in the darkness. You can't cover it. It's gonna be there always, and it's hard to avoid. You always see it, right? You see it out of the darkness. It shows itself to you. And so that kind of explanation or metaphor for truth, like permeating throughout time, and how it contributes to our understanding of what truth is, I found to be very interesting. And how he's talking about like what other metaphors we've used to describe truth, and why it's important to take note of these metaphors when trying to understand what truth is. And so the third and last reading for Hans Blumenberg for this week was Phenomenological Aspects on Life, World, and Technization. And the summary I have for that was that it seeks to explain how technology is shaped and how it shapes human experience with a focus on the several aspects of the human technology interaction. So the key things I took away from this was that he believes that technology encodes value, meaning that it is through our use of technology that we can see what our values are. And another thing is that he referenced Ernst Kapp's elements of philosophy of technology. And one of the things that Ernst argued was that technology is a part of human culture and it's changing the way we see the world. And I think that that kind of holds true is that we use technology in so many aspects of our life that it's become a part of our culture and of how we see ourselves in the world. And not just how we see ourselves in the world, but how we view the world is through the lens of our use of technologies with the world. And so for Martin Heidegger's reading, the question concerning technology, the summary I have for that one was the question of technology is uncovering not only the modern sense of technology, but that we're missing something that we must recover. And the things I took away from that were that he had this notion of inframing. And inframing is treating the world as a standing reserve of resources to be exploited. And that's basically we view the world through the sense of inframing. So, and I would kind of agree, or not kind of, I would agree with this aspect in the sense that we look at the world, or we use technology in the sense that we're trying to better our state in the world, our state of living and way of living in the world, and we're taking from the world to basically improve our standing in the world and improve our technology, and we're kind of like just exploiting the resources of it. Another thing that was noteworthy was that he kind of separates the essence of technology from what technology is. And then he also has like the two versions of technology that he kind of compares to each other, which is the ancient version of technology, which is handicraft technology, and then our modern technology. And then the last reading for this week was Oswald Spengler's Decline of the West. And the summary for that was that he believes a loss of spiritual depth and reliance on rationalism, materialism signals the decline of Western culture. He's kind of says that this would also lead to the rise in Caesarism, if that's the right way to say it, which is a form of government where an authoritarian leader rises to power due to the loss of spiritual connection. And he's basically saying that because Western culture has become more technologically reliant and the way we view technology is not from a spiritual aspect, but from like a purely scientific one, where we're just like cause and effect. We're doing this, and then it's kind of having this effect on it. And it's not like, oh, we need like a religious background for it. That people are going to search for a replacement for that, and then the replacement that will present itself will be an authoritarian leader that will rise up to try and fill that gap where religion used to fill for us in our daily lives. And this would kind of seem like almost predictive, since he wrote this during World War One and World War and published, I believe, at the end of World War Two. But then, I mean, not World War Two, but at the end of World War One, and then World War Two arise and the Nazi Party would arise, and it's like, maybe this Caesarism that he was speaking of is what the Nazi German Party or the Nazi Party would be like that's what he's speaking up to. So I thought that was interesting, and maybe it has some truth to that. And so that's my mind map too. And I hope that this was informative. And thank you for watching.